Hey, what's up YouTube? In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a spooky mad scientist horror lamp. This is perfect for Halloween, or I guess if you just kind of enjoy a spooky vibe. Let's get started. We'll begin by building part of a wall so that we can actually place our decoration. Start off by placing 5 cyan terracotta in a row on the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Extend the 5th block towards you by 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. On top of this, we want to stack 3 rows of chiseled quartz block. 1, 2, 3. However, this isn't so simple, as I will recommend that you not only use chiseled quartz block, but you also throw some quartz bricks in there as well. You can do it in a pattern, or you can do it semi-randomly. The idea here is that we just kind of want to break up the wall, so however you want to do that, I'll leave that up to you. But once the wall has been made, now that we have a wall to decorate, we can add our first decoration, which is going to be, how do we put this? Human parts in jars. So, in the corner of this wall, we'll dig a hole, and one either side of it. Place any slab you like inside of these holes, and now we want to place a crafting table, open it up, leather cap in there with a pink dye, grab that, put that in the inventory, get rid of the crafting table, and we're going to grab the 2 glasses that we have. So we want to drop armor stands inside of these holes. The first one in the corner I want to be placed extending towards the center of the room. Right of it, I'm just going to have one facing forwards. In the corner, a player head, and next to it, a pink leather cap, which will kind of look like a brain. So above the corner, we want to place a lime stained glass with a piston above it, activate it with a block of redstone, and that will place the head in a jar. For the brain jar, we want to place a polished blackstone above it, and then a piston above that, activate it, then place another piston below the piston, activate it. Perfect. We have polished blackstone where the armor stand is, and now all we have to do is push a green glass on top of the brain, and there we have 2 separate jars, which we can then add tops onto, either a heavy weighted pressure plate or an iron trap door, and then we can just surround the area with polished blackstone. So 3 along this back wall here, and 3 moving forwards. We already have 1, so 1, 2, 3. Perfect. That is part 1 complete. For the next part, we're still working on this area, but it's a lot more straightforward. To the right of this workspace, we want to place a couple of rows of lightning rods extending up to the ceiling like this, and then we want to interchange some of these with opposite wade placing lightning rods. Opposite wade placing? Yeah, that sentence makes sense. Well, anyway, they look like pipes and they look really cool. We want to place a stone cutter along the workbench here, and above the stone cutter we can place a couple of iron trapdoors on the wall in such a way that we can place stuff on them. So on top of this we can choose to place an item frame, and we can occupy it with a potion. It just looks like a test tube, and that's pretty cool. And you can even place something else which looks like a test tube, which can be any colour of candle. I'm going for the more vibrant ones. And next to this you can even use this as a decoration. I happen to think that an upright place, just single glass pane, kind of does look like a test tube, so that's another option as well. And on this back wall here, we also want to place a couple of trapdoors, and we can try something else. So we can add, say, maybe like a flower pot, a wither rose, and we can also add an item frame. We can say use a fermented spider eye, because it's just something that looks kind of gross. And we can also add a different color of glass, so maybe like a red stained glass instead. So we can place one of these here, and then next to this an item frame on the wall with the fermented spider eye, flower pot, with a rose. That looks pretty good. And of course you can stack more item frames, and you can place more things if you do so wish, but we don't want to clutter the area too much. So on this workspace here, we are going to grab a couple more of the candles that we've not used, so maybe some light blue ones and some red ones, and you can stack those in various quantities. And next to this, we want to place a brewing stand, which I believe we will need more potions for just to stack it up. So we'll place the brewing stand down, we'll open it up, and we'll chuck a bunch of potions in there to make it look a little bit busier. This is part 2 complete. This is a pretty cool workbench. Now, speaking of cool, the next thing that we are going to work on is a walk-in freezer to keep, well, parts in. Now, this requires a minor extension of the laboratory, so we are going to, from the end of this wall here, place a cyan terracotta, dig in the ground and replace that using a block of iron. We'll place an iron door on top, and right of this, another cyan terracotta, extend to the right, and then forwards. And then we are going to build up this wall by placing chiseled quartz block around this, like so. And we want the chiseled quartz to be as high as the surrounding wall. And we can chunk out some of these pieces and place some bricks in here as well. And we can even place it across the top of the door so that it is sunken in backwards. And whilst we are making this next to these pipes, this is going to be how we get in and out of the laboratory. So we are going to place an iron door here, and maybe we'll have a pressure plate that will allow us in and out of this a little bit later. Next to the freezer door, however, we are going to have a lever which will achieve the same effect, and now I think it's time for us to walk in here and actually build this up a little bit. So for the inside of the freezer, we want to extend this iron backwards by 2, 1, 2, and place block of iron in the ground. So either side of the iron, we are going to dig 2 rows down and place campfires kind of alternating, so one at the front and one on the back inside of these holes, and then we're going to place blue ice above these. We then want to build around the ice and the iron, so using cyan terracotta, or better yet, a mixture of cyan terracotta and block of iron, just built as walls around this, and you can kind of make this as high as you like. I would probably make it about as high as the rest of the laboratory, like this, and maybe even include a little bit of lighting inside of this area, say the middle strip we can replace with sea lanterns. And then inside here, we can dig out a couple of bits of wall, and we can place a blast furnace facing inwards with a sideways blast furnace next to it, and that kind of looks like an aircon or a chill system. And then we are going to grab iron trap doors and just a bunch of heads, so any heads that you would like to preserve in your freezer. And we are going to place some shelves, and we'll have some alternating zombie heads and player heads and skeleton skulls, kind of like anything that you want really, kind of just placed in here. And the campfires, by the way, are kind of to give you that sort of like chill, kind of like see your own breath sort of effect. So whilst it is smoke, you know, you gotta use a little bit of imagination. I think that we can happily call this part 3 complete. We can close the door on that part of the build. For part 4, we require a bit of an expansion. So, starting from the bottom of this wall next to the freezer, we want to place a polished granite, followed by a sea lantern, followed by another polished granite, and then 2 cyan terracotta, 1, 2. We then want to place an upside down waxed cut copper stairs in front of the sea lantern, with granite slabs left and right of it. We then want to place 2 lime glass on top of the stair block, with then another stair on top, then granite slabs left and right of the stair, and behind those we want to place the polished granite, with a sea lantern in between them. We then want to extend the glass blocks outwards using the lime glass pane, and then behind those, lime glass, like this. Then, to complete this effect, we want to place a weeping vine underneath the sea lantern, the upper one of course, and then behind all of this, it's kind of up to you what you want to place. I like lime concrete behind the plant, and then behind the other parts, cyan terracotta. It kind of gives an ominous sort of feeling to the sides. It kind of feels a little bit more layered. Well, once you've figured that out for yourself, we are now going to build up the wall just to the right using the usual mixture of the quartz blocks, so chiseled and regular, however you kind of want to implement those. And that is what I would call part 4 complete. This kind of creepy organic matter being grown in a test tube. Part 5 requires another expansion, so we're going to take the bottom of the wall next to the creepy plant matter, and we are going to extend the cyan terracotta forwards by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're then going to extend the wall to the right 1, and then forwards by 1, 2, 3, 4 again, and then in 1, and then forwards 2, 1, 2. So the end result should be this wall with a bit of an alcove in it, and then we just have to apply the wall effect to this area once again. So just to repeat myself once more, we are just going to place a mixture of chiseled quartz and quartz brick. I've actually done that in reverse order this time, but it might actually end up looking pretty good. So we can just chunk out some of these blocks and place some bricks in here and mix in some chiseled quartz, and I'm sure they will look good in the end. That looks alright. With the wall now complete, we can add some more detail to it. So, in the corner here, next to the organic, floaty, weird, creepy tank thing, we are going to place another couple of rows of the copper pipes in the form of lightning rods extending up from the floor to the... well, the ceiling isn't here yet, but you guys get the idea. And we will replace a couple of these with opposite placed rods. Looks really, really good. Then in this alcove here, we will place a couple of blocks of iron extending from the center block. Then at the end, we want to have an item frame with a player head in it. And left and right of this, a tripwire hook. And we are going to need cyan carpet, blue carpet, observer, red stained glass pane, block of iron. And in front of the item frame, a cyan carpet with a blue carpet in front. Also, whilst we're thinking about it, we're going to dot around a couple of buttons, so acacia and blackstone buttons, just kind of like, you know, about the place. They look as though that they accomplish something, and that is really all we need. And from here, we want to grab the light grey concrete, iron sword, and item frame. And we're going to place next to this poor unfortunate Steve, who is bound to this kind of like exam table. We're going to have next to this a light grey concrete with an item frame on top and an iron sword. And that is, of course, like some sort of scalpel or some sort of examining tool. Nothing good for Steve is essentially what that is. Now, above this, we have to have a little bit of a roof installed. So I'm just using iron block directly above the walls for this, because I want to have an observer right at the end here of where Steve's legs would be, the blue carpet, and the observer is going to point down like this, and below it we want a couple of red stained glass panes to kind of look like a laser. So this is, of course, getting fired at / into Steve, and honestly he's not going to enjoy the end result of this, but luckily it isn't getting him quite yet, so, you know, everybody's in a bit of suspense. I feel very much like a James Bond villain having built this. Like, maybe instead of Steve, we'll rename him to James, just for this particular part of the lab. But that is part 5 complete, which moves us onto the next major part of the build. Moving on to part 6, ladies and gentlemen, this is by far my favourite part of the lab. We get to make the zombie holding area, and these zombies actually like jump around. It looks really cool, and it's a little bit freaky, especially once we add the little bit of redstone to it as well at the end. So, to connect these two walls together here, we want to place a black concrete, yellow concrete, black concrete, yellow concrete. We then want to leave a gap of 2 above, and we want to do the exact same thing. So we want to match the pattern that is below. Above, or in front of one of these 2 sides, we want to have an item frame with a block of redstone, and that will look pretty good. So behind all of this, we have to make a little chamber. So this chamber is going to be about 2 rows wide, so from front to back like this, and it's going to have a backing of light grey concrete like so, and we are going to make the top out of block of iron, so we just have to drop down into here. So we'll make the top out of block of iron like this. And the floor we will also make out of block of iron, although some of this is a little bit inconsequential because the floor and the ceiling have to be partially replaced. So for the floor, we're going to do that now. We have to pick 2 positions for the zombies. One, I'm going to recommend you just stick in this back corner here, and the other, I would recommend you stick in front of and to the right of it. So we're going to place in the ground soul sand. So this is 2 rows down, and we're just going to dig around this and just make sure that it looks all nice. Not that anybody's ever really going to see it, but we want to have soul sand with water inside of this, and this will make the water jumpy / bubbly. And if we drop armor stands, which I don't know if this is going to be too annoying to do now, but if we drop armor stands, no, but it doesn't really make any noise. It does make a little bit of noise, so we might want to hold off and dropping these in here, but the idea is that the armor stands will jump, and they will look like zombies because we're going to grab a crafting table, and a leather tunic, pants, boots, cyan dye, grey dye, blue dye, and zombie heads. And if we open the crafting table, leather tunic in there with cyan dye, grab that, put that in the inventory, leather pants, blue dye, grab that, put that in the inventory, leather boots, grey dye, grab that, put that in the inventory. And you will find, and ladies and gentlemen, I might just chuck this in a chest for now because it will make noise and it might be a little bit annoying. But just to show you, if we drop this into water, and we kit it out in all of the leather and the zombie head, it looks like a jumping, bouncing, frothing at the mouth to get you zombie. So that is really, really cool. But what I think I'm going to do just for myself right now, just to, you know, just so that we don't have to listen to the splashing, we're just going to chuck all of this in a chest for later. Now, if we were to seal this up with a bit of glass, which would be counterintuitive because we don't have the zombies in there yet, that would be part 6 complete. The floor is really simple to do. Rip up all of the grass or whatever might be on your floor and replace it with a blend of stone and andesite, kind of similarly to what we've been doing with the walls. Then, for the ceiling, we simply just want to cover all of the empty space with block of iron. Really simple. This leads us on to part 7. This is going to be the final part of the tutorial. All we have to do is install some lights and a little bit of cool redstone for the zombie chamber. So to start with, we have to place a lever on the inside of the lamp. So this is really easily done, of course, but the position is this. Right next to the zombie chamber on the wall here, I'm actually going to replace this chiseled quartz with a block of iron and place a lever in front of it to make it more easily identifiable as we are going to move outside. And if we come to the outside, we can now find where we place the lever more easily. So I'm not exactly a redstone whiz here, guys, so if you do have a better way of doing this, do feel free to do it better yourself. Goal number 1, we want to extend a row of redstone dust from the lever all the way up on top of the zombie chamber. So we're going to create a little bit of a staircase using a block of iron. You can actually use any material, this is just the only solid block that I want to use here. So extending from the lever all the way up to the top of the chamber, which we can then place redstone dust on top of. Cool. So the first block on the corner of this chamber, we want to place a redstone comparator, specifically facing this way. In front of it, a repeater, specifically facing that way. Then, next to it, facing the opposite way, another repeater. We can then place redstone dust in this corner here, and then in front of both repeaters. This is effectively a redstone clock. All we have to do is activate the comparator. From here, we have to install a light or 2, for the zombie chamber. It's kind of up to you how you want to do this. So I think that one well-placed redstone lamp will work nicely, and I'm going to chuck it right here. So all we have to do is extend the dust outwards and on top of the lamp, come all the way back into the lamp, and if we activate the lever, then we should have this nice flickering light. Perfect, and we can actually turn that off. Job number 1. Great success. Job number 2, we want to install some lights. So this is kind of like a personal choice, but where we have the observer, I'm going to leave a gap of 1, install a redstone lamp in the ceiling. Gap of 1, lamp, gap of 1, lamp. So we've got a nice evenly dispersed amount of lamps, and you can extend them forwards or backwards. You can really make this as light and bright as you want, and of course all we have to do to activate these, I'm just going to chuck some block of redstone on top. And hey, wouldn't you know it, we now have a nice lit up lab. Now all we have to do, of course, is place our zombies in our zombie chamber. So we place armor stands on top of the soul sand, and we just equip them with zombie heads, leather boots, pants, and tunics, each one the exact same. That's perfect. We can seal this up as well using glass, and if we click this light on, it's just like a really cool, fun effect. This is my favorite part of the entire lab. And there we have it, guys, a spooky, scary, mad scientist horror lab. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please do remember to like the video, subscribe, click that little bell next to the subscription button. That'll ensure that you get all my videos sent directly to your sub box. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.